Well, it's a very, very good evening and welcome to our special election show that's broadcast simultaneously on SABC 2 and the DSTV channel 404 in the run-up to the elections. My name's Leanne Manis. The two guys I'm with, Tabiso, Simpiwe. It's such a pleasure. We're here to bring you the latest election news.
It's always a good one on a Monday when you start off the week.
It is.
This show, I mean, when it ended last week Thursday, I was like, oh, come on. Can we have one more day?
Really?
It only could be a day.
Really? Did you honestly say that?
Believe you me.
Because you didn't say that
And I'm
to
sure
me.
the viewers as well. I
Yeah.
mean, they were saying,
Possibly?
I
Possibly?
know a lot of guys at home, they're saying, geez, we should have more of these. Anyway, good evening. My name is Tabiso Sitole. Focus today is on demarcation, where Vuwani and the surrounding areas are hotspots since April this year. Now, before we go to that, just a reminder that your viewers at home, the question on Twitter, we ask every day. Today we asked you, what do you think, well, of demarcation? Is it fair? You'll find the question on hashtag SABC elections. And we'd love to hear your views, of course, yeah?
All right.
We're not alone, as you said.
Of course.
Hot seat.
Simpiwe. Good evening, Simpiwe.
Hey Leanne, hey Tabiso, and very good evening to you viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Simpiwe Ngone. And as we start the second week of this pre-election show, we'd really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting and all those concerns and the compliments. We do really appreciate it, and keep those tweets rolling. Hashtag SABC News Election, and thank you so much for those tweets. And you know, before we get to the thorny issue of demarcation, let's now start with a brief look at some of today's election news.
Very much. Now, our first story we're taking a look at is the Municipal Demarcation Board has in the past few years come under heavy criticism from political parties at first to the ordinary residents who protested violently.
Now, the board has also faced several court cases challenging its decision on merging certain municipalities. It is now calling on submissions to review the laws that regulate how the process works. Aldrin St. Pierre compiled this report for us.
From the warm beaches along the KwaZulu-Natal shores to the green scenery of the Kruger National Park and the concrete jungle of Johannesburg lies the story of an evolving geography. Its people forced to integrate irrespective of their diversity and economic disparity. A wrecking ball is demolishing the walls of apartheid's spatial policies which kept us separated.
The principles, which are often called the fundamentals, are that we have to reverse the apartheid geography. By that, we need to bring about spatial transformation and spatial justice for all. We need to ensure that we bring about the integration, the socio-economic integration of communities and settlements, while gradually realizing a developmental and sustainable local government.
The process includes establishing or reconfiguring municipalities and wards. Since 1996, the number of municipalities or local authorities have been decreased to 205. The determination includes the financial state of municipalities and the number of registered voters.
After 5 years, the number of registered voters today are no longer as they were in 2011. Now, as this number of registered voters would change, if the number changes upwards, which is what should be the case, if the numbers change upwards, it means that there would be an increasing number of wards. I want to give an example, for example, with the city of Johannesburg. The number of wards in the city of Johannesburg increased from 130 to 135 now.
It's an ongoing 5-year cycle which has to be concluded before every local government election. 10 years ago, the Demarcation Board took a decision to incorporate Kutsong into the Northwest. It was violently opposed and the councillor, Des van Rooyen, had to flee. Van Rooyen, who's now the Minister of Cooperative Governance, says a thorough research is conducted before mergers are concluded.
There are seven areas that we are looking at to make sure that transitional aspects are entertained. The first, of course, is issues of finances of the municipality that are brought together, HR-related issues, but also issues of a governance system.
Van Rooyen is currently part of an interministerial committee trying to find a lasting solution to the Vuwani crisis. However, it seems that process won't yield the results wanted by this community, at least for now. After the August 3rd elections, Vuwani and Malamulela will form a new municipality.
All the municipalities that have been determined now and published, and as the map would show now for any particular area, these municipalities are effective from on the date of the elections on the 3rd. And indeed, the municipal boundary matter is not a closed matter such that which would present a situation as if you can't have it considered at some point. Indeed, after the elections, the period would reopen for the board to consider municipal boundary determinations. That time comes indeed after the elections.
The demarcation board says the decision is based on the law.
Political gains or political constituencies are not any consideration that we should look at. Those don't constitute our criteria, and we never even look at them. It's just an outcome that happens as a consequence of our process, of our activities and our application of the law. It's not our consideration at all. Sometimes the IFP is not happy when a boundary is drawn, like you'd seen in Denver. Sometimes the ANC is not happy when a boundary runs in a particular manner, like we had seen a group from Mamelodi come in to march on the board. So it's all parties that will be happy one day and not happy the other day. But we're simply doing our work as provided for in the law.
The board admits there were flaws in the 2011 Tshwane amalgamation, which led to the metro becoming the biggest on the continent and the third biggest in the world. It says setting up transitional committees for mergers is a step in the right direction.
Now, the residents of Vuwani and its surrounding areas in Limpopo are upset about their amalgamation with Malamulele, and violent protests led to the burning of schools and other property. The damage has come to around 500 million rand.
Yeah, now the protests broke out in March. Since then, 20 schools have been burnt down. The almost 800 matrics have missed their mid-year exams and have only, started with it today. But no other schooling is taking place in the area.
The demarcation board announced that Vuwani will be taken away from the Makhado municipality and will be added with Malamulele to make it economically more viable. All hell broke loose. It started with barricading of the roads. Then shops were set alight and police vehicles were also damaged. Then more than 20 schools were torched. It was followed by tribal offices and houses. The IEC's voter registration weekend was disrupted. Schooling and businesses were shut down and Vuwani became a no-go area for weeks, even for the police who arrested 33 so-called ringleaders. South African Human Rights Commission Regional Manager Victor Mavidula said initial investigations appear to support allegations of police brutality. When it became possible to enter the area and count the cost, a staggering conclusion was made.
We know that there are many figures that have been thrown about the extent of damage in the area, but the figure that we have is 308 million to refurbish and rehabilitate the school damage. We're talking about only the schools. Remember, there are houses that have been damaged. There are offices that have been damaged. There are other properties like from the municipalities. This figure does not include those.
Different people hold different opinions about the reasons for the violence. The spokesperson for the Premier, Kenny Mativa, says tribalism is part of the problem. Vuwani is mainly Venda and Malamulele is mainly Tsonga. He said before homelands, these communities lived in harmony next to each other. 18 suspects have been released on bail by the Thohoyandou High Court after spending more than a month behind bars. 15 others, mostly those who have been arrested later, are still locked up. 8 traditional councils in the area and the Vuwani Service Delivery and Development Forum have applied to have their case heard by the Constitutional Court after the Polokwane High Court ruled that the Municipal Demarcation Board was within its right to incorporate the area into one municipality. It appears as if a lot of peace have returned. People were going about their daily business as before. Shops were open, taxis were running, but at Feyeboom the roads were still closed. Residents were too scared to speak to us, and the police was still there. Philip van der Walt, Limpopo.
All right, now let's talk to our reporter in Polokwane in the Limpopo province, Mike Moringa. Mike, a very, very good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Now, the situation in Vuwani, we did say that it was still a little bit volatile. What's it like, particularly for the campaigning for political parties?
Good evening, Lian. The situation in Vuwani has not changed much since April, when locals went on a protest burning schools and vandalizing government property. As we speak now, schools are still closed. Shopping malls or shopping centers in the area are still closed as well. The situation has not changed much. You'll remember that majority of those who were protesting were arrested and they were released last week. But before we go there, let me indicate to you that the latest from Vuwani is that the application that was made by the chiefs into the Constitutional Court to have the decision of the demarcation board reversed has been dismissed this afternoon, meaning that the chiefs in that area have exhausted all their avenues. Their application was dismissed at the High Court. They made an appeal at the Con Court. It has also been dismissed. So as we speak now, they have exhausted everything. But coming back to the situation, learning has stopped completely. It has come to a complete standstill. Learners from grade R up to grade 11 have not been attending classes since April. It's only matriculants. We have seen over 2,000 matriculants who were taken to 3 camps around the province. They started with their mid-year examinations. It is difficult now for any party to canvass votes in that part of the area because the locals are very clear. They are saying that if that decision is not reversed, they are not going to the polls. They will only resume with their normal life come the 3rd of August. So Vuwani is still an area where things are not happening. It's quiet. It's not business as usual, Lian.
Let's talk about these schools, because I mean it is exceptionally worrying when you're telling us that all the way from grade R up until grade 12, there's nothing happening. I mean we had promises from government that there would be temporary structures put in place, that there would be some form of schooling taking place for these scholars that are not able to go to school anymore. These learners. What happened with that? With government's plans?
Look, government was very quick to intervene at Vuwani. You remember there was a ministerial task team that was on the ground from day one. What they indicated to the communities was that what they need to see happenings there is the resuming of schooling, teaching and learning. But that did not happen because parents did not release their kids to go to in school. There was a lot of intimidation. It is only matriculants who were catered for. Over 2,000 of them. There's a camp at Sishigo, there's another one at Lutrichat and another one at Nkowankowa, where they have tried to at least house more than 2,000 learners who started writing today. It is worrisome because the rest of the learners have not been to class. They have not seen the inside of the classroom since the start of the protest. The likelihood is that they might repeat their grades come next year if nothing change in the coming week. Remember now we are on a school recess and they are at home, depending on what will happen immediately after these holidays. But the department has made it clear that if they go for a period of more than 4 months without schooling, all the lower grades are bound to repeat their grades come next year, Lian.
How unfair is that on the learners at this point. Mike Moringa, he's of course our reporter out there in Limpopo, and he's talking to us about the situation in Vuwani, and not much better than we last checked in with him. I know that you've got some tweets for us there, Taviso. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Well, the question we've been asking at home on hashtag SABC elections, what are your thoughts on demarcation? Quick couple, Bangis Zwenkosi says, none other than the ANC babysitting the demarcation board for its own ultra gains and known only to itself. Another one from Brian Makuva saying, not at all. They don't have a problem with it. They just wanted a way to satisfy the Malamulele people. The Vuwani people was their easiest target. Of course, hashtag SABC elections. I'll take one more. John S. Jackson says, Vuwani surely solution should have been dissolved by municipalities, Leanne, and then create one, well, in fact, new one central with 50-50 members in as far as that is concerned. Quite a topical issue, Leanne, as far as the demarcation. As, in fact, we've been hearing this conversation for quite a while now. So it's one that does not seem to want to go away.
Doesn't go away at all, and it's absolutely devastating when one thinks about the repercussions that the particularly learners are going through.
Particularly as heard from Mike right now.
Yeah, that's not right.
Anyway, we'll take a quick break. When you come back, Sim on the hot seat.
Yeah,
yes,
looking forward to it. Stay tuned.
Unlock a whole new world of African hospitality. Experience world-class luxury, unparalleled adventure, royal banquets, wild safari, and intimate live music performances. Book your 3-day escape today. Brought to you by ESP Africa, producers of the award-winning Cape Town International Jazz Festival. The Royal Escape Experience.
There is a sign for perfectionism. There's a sign for goosebumps. Something that symbolizes more performance. A sign for a special mindset. There is a sign for everything we stand for. Audi Sport, born on the track. Built for the road. Join the League of Performance.
Why are electoral systems important in a democracy?
We think of democracy as voting people into office. The other side of the coin is that we would be more empowered and more accountable in politics if we could do the opposite, is vote them out when they don't deliver.
Politics is about who gets what, when and how.
If you look up on the internet as to how the head of state is chosen, it says monarchy.
We should not refer to an election as a contest.
So we should not shy away from the fact that an election is a contest. Of course, I do admit that it's not a bloody contest, or it shouldn't be a bloody contest.
It shouldn't be a bloody contest.
Fight and, of course, and
it should also not be a beauty contest.
Then it shouldn't be also a beauty contest either.
Swiss people, for example, can travel internationally with a cantonal passport, not even a national one. That's like us traveling on a Free State passport, for example.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Another demarcation, this time around though in Johannesburg, has led to violent protests. The Denver hostel's residents also boycotted voter registration in April this year and prevented IEC officials from setting up voter registration stations. The hostel was previously in a mainly IFP ward, but then after demarcation, half of it was to be included in a ward led by the Democratic Alliance. And with me right now in our studio is our reporter Mangoba Mkunu, who covered that story earlier this year. Thank you so much for joining us. Do we know for sure why the ward was split into two? Could it have been a case of political gerrymandering, perhaps?
Well, what we got from the residents there is that they were told that their ward had reached its maximum in terms of the number of voters that could register onto it. They told that the demarcation board said to them that they were allowed only about 45,000 voters in that particular ward. And once that number had reached or it got beyond the 45,000 mark, then they had to be moved. Some people had to be moved to another ward. And this literally meant that people from Ward 65 were then now moved to Ward 118, which is a DA-led ward. And basically, when we also spoke to the municipal board, they told us that that was the reason that, as you heard in that previous insert that was played, that after every 5 years, there's a review process that is carried out so that the numbers of the voters are assessed, and then the demarcation is done according to those numbers every 5 years before there is another local municipal election. And therefore, that was one of the reasons why the demarcation board took this decision, because that ward had now gone over the 45,000 threshold.
And the residents certainly did not take kindly to that. What were their reasons for rejecting this move?
Well, the residents were very angry with the decision. First of all, they said that they were not consulted. And they say that since they were not consulted, they do not accept this move. Secondly, the residents said that, Ward 65 was now going to be divided into two. And this means that half of the hostel will be under one ward, and the other half would be under another ward. So this meant that there will be two councillors who are serving the very one hostel in the end. And therefore, they said that this will not be good for them in terms of service delivery. They feel that their service delivery plights will be ignored if they have two councillors overseeing the same hostel.
Were they consulted, though? Because Jane Tupana said they consulted widely with the community. What's at play here?
Well, the community claims that they were never consulted. They said that their leaders did meet with the demarcation board, but the issue of demarcation never came up. They said that they were only told that this might happen in the future, but they were not told that it was going to be a decision that will be taken before the local municipal election. And you can imagine the anger. The people are saying that this is a predominantly IFP-led ward. And now some people are being moved to the DA ward. They're saying that this is going to disadvantage them at the elections. They feel that, they're going to lose some votes from the people in that ward. And therefore, they're totally against that decision, saying that the demarcation board should review it. They want it reversed, in fact, saying that they do not accept it. And in fact, their plans are to take even further after the elections.
Now, briefly, what 65 Councillor Mandlakaisa Smelana said, the main reason for their resistance is that this being incorporated rather into 118 was that it was going to push their names down the list of the RDP beneficiary. Have you heard anything to that effect?
That's one of the reasons what they gave, is that there is already a long list of people waiting for houses. You know, there's an informal settlement just next to the Denver hostel, and it's also part of that ward. And therefore, they feel that, if it's moved to 118, it won't get as much priority as it would have under the same councillor who already knows their plight, who already knows their issues, who knows about this housing development that's going to take place there. So they feel that they'll be disadvantaged if they are moved to that ward, because this demarcation, what it basically means is that that particular informal settlement will now fall under the new ward, which is 118. And therefore, they strongly object that, saying that, it might count against them when it comes to that housing list that has already been worked on by the councillor of the IFP party.
They also rejected registration, and in essence, they're not going to vote. Is that still the case?
Well, no, they've changed since then. We know that during the first voter registration weekend, they boycotted, they prevented IC officials from entering. They even went as far as threatening people who wanted to register to go and register. So what the IC did is that under the police protection, they set up temporary shelters opposite the road, on the main road of the hostel, and that's where people were able to register. But still, there was a group that was threatening people who were going there literally. So there was not much registration that took place that weekend. But what happened after that? There was a meeting between them and the indunas, as well as the lawyers that have now sought to deal with this issue, and they were advised that it's better to register for the elections and also to vote so that their right is heard. And then finally, they say that they're not done yet. They're still going to take this matter forward after the elections, and that there will be more unrest if this decision is not reversed.
Mangoba, thank you so much for joining us. That was a reporter, Mangoba Mkhunu, giving us some perspective, about the whole demarcation process and then taking us back to the violence that rocked Denver in Johannesburg. We thank him for his time.
Quite an interesting one there, of course. Yep.
Right, let's take a break here on the program. When we return, we're going to get a peek at another small party in the coming elections. And, of course, we're going to see what they promise you, the voter.
My favorite part of the show. Yeah?
Indeed.
Stay with us. You're watching SABC News, channel 404, and, of course, our sister channel, SABC 2.
He appealed for the disruptions to come to an end so the future of the children is not compromised.
The union said the latest offer by Eskom will condemn its members to poverty.
Samples from the 2012 London Olympic Games and 2014 Sochi Winter Games will also be retested.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Usisiwe Jamsana, SABC News, Alice.
Mzwande Lembe, SABC News, Doha, Qatar.
Kunatipingwa SABC News, Alice.
Diabo Seto, SABC News, Geneva, Switzerland.
Nampumelo Siziba, SABC News, Moscow, Russia.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Craig Murray, SABC News, Stellenbosch.
We bring the news back home. We keep the nation fully informed.
Good afternoon, you're with the news at 1.
Welcome to Lunchtime News Amplified.
Selection of political parties by means of a lucky draw has been a common practice for the past 22 years.
We take an in-depth look at top stories of the day and live crossings to our journalists on the scene.
First time in our nation's history that a woman will be a major party's nominee.
Business news, sports update, and weather report.
Hello and welcome to News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Good to have you with us.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report, weekdays at 12 noon, only on the SABC News channel.
Very quickly, our regular slot for a look at the smaller parties. And we're looking at Are Ageng Africa is also a new party who wants to develop Zeerust and the Northwest as one of the country's leading ports of entry.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
We must come with the strategies or ways of improving the local economic opportunities so that we can create jobs for our people. Like the youth. In case of the youth, our main objective is to come with internships and liaise with other agencies which can provide skills to the youth. Because the youth, they are the mostly affected people, part of the society, with unemployment is very, very high. That is why we want to target local economic development. Ramoseramiro is located in the three border line, which join us with Botswana and other African countries. Cloquem border. Those borders, they need to be improved. We need to create a strategy of economic development along those.
Well, there you have it. Yep. Are Ageng Africa.
One to look out for. Well, that's the show for tonight. Catch us tomorrow again, same time, same place. Goodbye.
Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
from the moment you start your day.
My biggest question is how I got myself here on time.
Yeah.
This is so early for a comedian, I gotta be honest.
We are there for you. We bring your morning into perspective.
As news breaks throughout the morning.
It's 6:30 Central African Time. You're watching SABC News Primetime live from Johannesburg. Hello, I'm Peter Ndoro.
A very good evening. I'm